Welcome to the 2350 effect.
All right, everyone, it is Sunday, and that means welcome to the 2350 Effect. I am your co host and the co founder, co creator of the 2350 Network. And I like to try to explain to people the difference. What's the 2350 Effect? What's the 2350 Network? The 2350 Network is the cause and it's the effect. So I'd like to welcome everybody out there to the 2350 Effect. And as always, I am joined by my co host, co-creator, and amazing individual, Dr. Farron. Want to introduce yourself and tell them a little bit more about you?
Yeah, for sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Tanya Farron. I am the co-host of this great show, the 2350 Effect, along with Damien, and also the owner of Creative Living Ideas, where I do professional development and have written 9 different books, journals included in there, and just have a lot of fun creating large summits and events a couple times a year. So it is just fun things that I do every day.
And that is really fun as always. And tonight we have a special guest who's coming in really shortly. She's doing double duty, had her back to back. And without further ado, we have her co-host who is a 2350 member. She is a voice of reentry. She is the owner and creator of Home Reentry. She has Tripping with Jax. She does travel talks with Jax. She hosts audio rooms, live conversation, and she also has just launched her new venture, which is called the Emotional Women. I think it's LLC, but I'm not sure. And she also is a licensed mediator and reentry person and a good person to have conversation discussion around this topic. Jackie Harbaugh, welcome to the 2350 Effect.
Hey guys, so thankful to have me. Sorry, I'm kind of hanging out in the bedroom, having some weird issues around here, but we're here. We've got lots to talk about. Thank you both for coming.
I think we got a little bit of technical difficulty with Jackie, especially when she's doing double duty and out there, but she'll be right back. But as always, if you've been a part of the show, you know what the 2350 Effect is. We always start with Jackie's back. We always start with a laugh call text. So, the LinkedIn glitch computer is laughing and glitching a little bit, but we're out there. So we always like to start off with our laugh call text. I'll start this week with my laugh call text. So my laugh call text this week is actually you, Jackie. I was able to go to the room yesterday, and you texted me. I texted you on Friday to talk to you. You reached out to me, checking on you. You said, "Hey, are you coming to the Make sure you come tomorrow." I said, "I'll definitely be there." And I learned that you have a new, exciting conversation and outlet, especially for women. The whole goal is to empower individuals, especially women. And you have the emotional women. New Is it an LLC? Was it?
It's close to being one.
Okay, cool. So congratulations on that. And if you're out there, click on Jackie and Melissa's new page and follow them as well. So that was my laugh call text. I was so excited and overjoyed for you. I texted you. You was like, "You make sure you be there." And I was there, and I was happy to see, and I'm even happier to see the overwhelming response for it because it's really a good movement. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. How about you, Jackie? What's your laugh call text?
Okay, so I love that. Like I was trying hard not to like spill the beans because Melissa was trying hard to share it with a couple people. And I said, no, we got to drop the knowledge in your show. It has to be there. I said, the only person I'm going to even hint to is Damien because I just got to, because you're really You're an inspiration for this room, this business, all this stuff we're doing with the emotional women, Damien, because she and I are professional leaders, and sorry, I'm getting off the call to text, but it's going to circle around. We still get people that shoot us down and try to get our voices quiet. And you have always been there for me, Damien. You've checked on me even when I haven't told you I was having a bad day, or I didn't even tell you somebody was kind of not being very nice in a DM or in an audio event towards me. You're always there. So thank you very much for that. So my text to you was pretty cool, but I actually, in Voices in Reentry right before this, I had Aaron Pettis as my guest, and he had never spoken in an audio room. He's came to a couple of Damien my rooms, but he's never been to Voices in Reentry, and he's never spoke in any room. So he called me right before the show, before we went live, and he's just like, so like, do I have to do anything? And I'm like, oh, I should have probably explained a little bit more, because Damien and I have been doing this a year and a half, getting close to the almost 2-year mark before long. And it's like, I just tend to assume that everybody knows exactly what to do. And I was like, thank you so much for reminding me that I should have prepped my guest a whole bunch more. So I kind of laughed at myself for that, for just kind of assuming. But once he started talking, it sounded like he's been doing this for years and years, right? I mean, it was pretty awesome. Thank you guys for supporting that.
Thank you. Dr. Farron, how about you? And he did feel like he was so comfortable in that.
You did a great job. Your show was incredible tonight. Thank you so much for doing back-to-backs with us. I know it's a lot to be on for 2 hours straight, but thank you so much for doing that. We greatly appreciate you being here, and your previous room is just incredible. I love making sure that I'm there. I learned so much about it. So I would say my laugh, call, or text, it's hard to sum it all up in a week. You might be better off asking me in one day, like, what was your laugh, call, text today? Because there's usually something like that. I would say we just had a lot of celebration this week with my kids. I know I talk about my kids a lot. They are my world. They are important to me. But we had one win district championship as a coach, and that was incredible this week. So we had lots of text and cheering going on from that. And our other daughter closed on her very first house. And so we had great pictures going back and forth of the house. And those are just really, really nice and personal. You know, when your kids are thriving and doing good, you're happy. You know, you gotta live on those highs, you know, because you just gotta live on those highs. And so they're just great moments. And so I've had lots of really, really great laugh, call, or text. I'd like to thank everybody who's here tonight. Also in the audience, we've got Melissa Houston. Thank you for being here. Leslie Flowers, thank you so much. David Jones, thanks for being here. Brenda Lees, Acosta, thank you. Deidra, thank you for being here. Christy Williams, appreciate you. And Brian Bing, thanks so much for being here tonight. So we're very excited to have you be a part of the 2350 Effect. And please, we want you to engage in the audience. Ask us questions, you know, tell us your thoughts on the topics that we're discussing and talking about tonight. So we love having your engagement and having you be a part of this evening.
Yeah, and if you're joining us out there and we don't see your name, you coming up as LinkedIn user, please just click, put a dash, and then write your name so we can get make sure we show you some support, some love, because we appreciate your support. And also, if you're watching this on Team Replay, put in hashtag replay, put your comments in. We'll go back, look at them, respond to them. And definitely, if there's a question or anything that's in place that you have, we can definitely follow up on the next show or follow up in the DM. So please put it out there. All right, Dr. Farron, you want to start off the first question?
Well, I do, but I want to talk to you about this poll you created. Are you going to save that till the end?
I was going to do it next because I got to message somebody who told me make sure I tell them.
Okay, you do that first. I really want to talk about this this topic. So I jumped into Shayna's room about parenting on Friday, I believe it was, and we started talking about this in a roundabout way. So this really made me kind of come into this piece about family. We're getting upon the holiday season. There's going to be lots of family decisions to be made over who's going where, when. There's going to be conflicts. There's people that don't want to be with people. So it's kind of perfect timing to have this conversation about people and their relationships. Are they spending more time arguing? Are they resolving conflict? And, we talked about that some in the room when I was discussing, kind of talking about holidays as well also. So I'm interested in wanting to talk about, I've never really thought about the statement that was posted. How does over explaining drain your energy? So talking about over explaining, and I think maybe if we just break that down in itself, like what exactly is over explaining to someone? What is a good listener? And what is a good like conflict resolution? Like really, what are those three components? Like what do they really all mean? Start with that. Jackie, what's your take on any of those?
So that's a lot. So
It's a lot.
I got to tell you, conflict is so rooted in emotion. And that's one of the reasons why I don't feel bad hyping our whole The Emotional Woman group and business that we just launched yesterday, because we are not always in control of our emotions. And I guarantee the more that we do, and Damien, I don't know if you want to check your comments. If you haven't seen, there's some political stuff going on in your comments. And that definitely is a conflict type of a discussion if that starts happening, because we get so emotional and invested in things. And one of the reasons people over explain, and this is bad because I like to talk, guys, especially on these passionate topics. When we feel violated, when we feel we have to prove our point, maybe we feel guilty at the topic, maybe we're defensive, we will talk more and more to try to either distract the other person or to prove our point. And when we're talking listening, we can't listen when our mouth is going. We can't listen when our brain is already trying to combat the person's discussion. It's not something that we can really prepare ourselves for in a capacity if we're not ready to be truthful. So if you feel like you're just talking and they're not listening. Why even waste your energy anymore? Because that's not a discussion. That is a one-way type of a thing. Pause. It's a beautiful thing. That is the number one thing in traditional mediation, whether it's for a family dispute, whether it's for a business issue or something else. That pause makes a world of difference, because it checks them, and then they can kind of catch their breath and be like, oh my gosh, I just babbled for how long and you didn't even acknowledge what I just said. You're still saying the same things. It's kind of mind blowing, but it really happens when we have that personal investment, because we don't feel like we're being heard. We feel like we got to protect ourselves, and it can escalate a whole bunch.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I do. And I feel like, there's a variety of skills. Like you said, it is a big package. This is a big package, these three topics. The art of listening, that is definitely something that is learned. And this was a topic that Damien and I were talking about, that we felt like this was really important because, conflict resolution, you're just not born with conflict resolution. You just don't know how to resolve conflicts. And most of the times we learn how to resolve conflict from prior experiences. That's how we pattern our conflict resolution. And so that's from prior experiences. It may not be the most effective, but that may be the only way that we know. And so, over explaining was a new topic for me, because I've never really thought about that, but people do tend to re-talk to try and re-explain, to get you to see their side, right? To get you to understand what they're thinking, to get you to understand that. And so when do we pause those moments? And I talk about this in my parenting book. I always circle back to parenting in some way, shape, or form, but we do talk about family meetings, and family meetings are really important. And using these steps of being the listener, being the mediator, being able to create a resolution together is really a multi-step process to do, and takes a lot of practice. So we can get into that a little bit further down the road, but just knowing those three components and when to use them, I think is important also to know.
That's so true. I agree 100%. It is definitely known when to use them. And it kind of goes into like the discussion I was having on a poll, and even the whole conversation of like, what is explaining? Like we know what listening is. That's when, sometimes you're just, having that empathetic air, you're doing it. And it also could be you shutting down. It could be shutting down, could happen. So in those situations, and then also in addition to shutting down, what can happen in those situations is you have the person who's explaining their viewpoint and their point of view, which we kind of want to avoid, and individuals don't. It's arguing. It's just essentially what it is. It's arguing. Like someone asks your opinion, you say something to them. You know, do I? Is that something you would do yourself? No, I don't think that was something I would do myself because I'm right-handed and I don't understand how to move left-handed, so I can't do it. And then the person is arguing with you saying, well, you should be ambidextrous. You should be able to work in a left-handed situation. And then you explain it to them how hard it is for you because you're right-handed and you don't understand. And then now you're going back and forth and explaining that because you're right-handed and they're not listening. And then the last part of that is you find yourself mediating the situation where you're the person who's listening to someone talk about, let's say, for instance, you got to take two friends who are in conflict with each other, and you're mediating, you're being the middle person, and you're trying to give points of views, and you find yourself doing that a lot during conversations of, what do you think when John said this about that? And you're explaining, like, I know John maybe is coming from this perspective, and the person. And now you're trying to put out the fire in the conversation. And then the last part is you doing a little bit of both. And, a lot of times when you're having these conversations, and part of that poll that I had up was this. It was, what role do you find yourself during the conversation? And it's so key to evaluate your spaces that you're holding and people you're in. Are you over-explaining yourself? Do you become the listener because you're listening to help and support and you're lending an empathetic ear? Or are you listening because you're shutting down because the person you're talking to, that they don't want to hear you at all? Do you become the person who is the person who mediates the room and the environment all the time? Or are you a person that's doing a little bit of both? And if you find yourself over-explaining, like on a poll, nobody said they over-explain. Nobody said they found themselves in those situations. And, maybe the people who didn't say anything were individuals who were like, I'm going to refrain from saying it. But you have to understand and evaluate where you're at in those situations. Most people do a little bit of both, a little bit of all, but you have to make sure you're looking at who you're with, your spaces and environments you're in, and are you spending time arguing or over-explaining or resolving conflict? So,
I want to go back and talk about that poll because I wanted to. When I took the poll, I just took it today, actually. When I took the poll, I read them all and I was like, no, I'm definitely not a combination of everything. So I think I wanted to just pick two, but I can't. So I picked mediator. And I would say mediator for myself because as the parent in our family meetings, because it brought me right to family meetings, and we have family meetings all the time, even at the age that my kids are at. If they even like to plan a trip, a vacation, the holidays, we have a family meeting. We had one today, just a 3-way phone call. Like, let's have the conversation and get the ball rolling on where are we going, when, where, and all of that, so that there's no disagreements, no hurt feelings and all that. But I'm always the kind of initiator of it to mediate. And I always, this is funny, my kids grew up knowing there was plan B. And I think when you can say, here's a problem, here's a solution, but if this solution doesn't work, what are we going to do next? Like, what's plan B? And I remember them being young, coming to me and saying, what's plan B? What are we going to do next? You're always good at coming up with this. So I kind of put myself in that mediator piece, but you also have to be a good listener, right? To be able to mediate. And then I thought maybe I should have marked all three because sometimes I feel like I may have to explain the scenario differently. Like, has anybody ever told you a story, Jackie, and you just didn't understand what they were saying? And you're like, could you say it a different way? Like, what are you trying to tell me? I'm still not getting what you're telling me, right? And then they have to flip that story. So I think I might have been all three. I probably answered the poll wrong.
And, it's so interesting, that mediator role. So for me, I'm a certified state mediator. So in to really use that term mediator, it's kind of like using the term doctor. You're supposed to be licensed in your state or in your jurisdiction to actually call yourself a mediator. And so many people use their friends or their family in that mediator role because they have ulterior motives. They know mom's going to pick my side, or they know this friend will get mad at this one because they're going to believe me because I came to them first. And that actually escalates the conflict most often. Now, it's one thing if it's just like, Mom, I kind of need this, or hey friend, what kind of dinner do we need to go to? It's another thing when we are really driven by that emotional response. This person hurt me. I can't believe she's calling herself my friend, and now I need you to go and figure out how to get her to be nicer to me. That's putting that friend in a very awkward position. And one of the things that we find at the mediation center is people wait too long to get outside professional support. It does not mean you can't communicate, you can't mediate certain things, but there are certain things that we need a neutral person in that room that is not related to me, is not my best friend, it's not somebody I'm going out to dinner with next week, that can say, Jackie, you're talking a little bit too more. Did you hear what Dr. Tanya actually said? Could we slow down a minute and let her explain herself? I'm not going to go with my friend cutting me off like that. But if somebody that's a professional does it, it's a whole different discussion. So sometimes people like to be the mediator, not because they want to help their friends resolve stuff, but because they want the gossip from both sides. Have you guys seen those people? Uh-huh. And then that just relates that more and more confusion, emotional pull, and where do you go? So I love that you guys are bringing this topic up because so many people think when it's a conflict, it's a yes or no. I'm right, you're wrong, you're right. Guys, there's so many different sides to it. And that's one of the things that I wish more people would say instead of saying, I need to be right, or I need to tell you what you did wrong. Just flip that and say, I wonder how Damien is understanding that for him to feel that way. Or I wonder what thoughts are going on for Damien because he's using those words and he really thinks that I owe him money when I know I paid him. I know we had this discussion, so instead of saying, I'm right, they need to hear that I'm right. Why would Dr. Tanya think that I did something wrong to her when I didn't realize it? I need to listen to her story so I can understand that. That's how we truly get to real resolution. It might not make Dr. Tanya and I friends again. Damien might still think that I owe him, but at least I listened to his explanation and maybe he listened to mine in a different capacity.
That is definitely a great point of view. That reframe of asking questions from the curiosity point of view. And that kind of helps with resolving conflict versus over explaining. Because when you ask a question, you're looking for clarity, and there's no explanation in that situation. Now it's on the onus of the other individual to explain to you what's going on, and you get a little bit more clarity. It also gives you time to take a deep breath and use kind of like that internal self talk and be like 1,000, 1,000. This person is like you said, they're trying to create a situation where they're trying to get information from both sides, and you can be able to put it back on them. So I love how you said that. Dr. Farron, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm thinking a lot about this, and I'm thinking about when we were first kind of gone back and started talking about that the person who is over explaining. To me, they remind me of a drainer, right? Have you had that kind of a person who just will not stop? They're relentless. They won't stop. They have to be right. They may not be right. They have to be right. They don't want to listen to mediation. They don't want to listen to your side. They want to do, and that's a drainer. And I find that is very easily said, like, you're draining me. I need a break from this. And I think that's a piece that people think they can't do, is take a break or a pause. Yes. You could even take 2 or 3 days in between conflict to even getting close to a resolution. You may have to take longer than that. With time, there's clarity often. And so, with time, there's clarity. And so taking a break or establishing that boundary of, what, you're draining me right now. This is not in my schedule for today. We can have to set this up for such and such date, and we can revisit this. A lot of times that calms people down. They've got time to think. all of that? I see, Jackie, you're ready to answer that.
Oh, I'm so ready. We all are meant to have different communication styles. It is okay to talk differently to different people. Like there are some people that I swear they can, and Damien's one of these, he can start reading my mind before I even get everything out. I have people that I have to speak much slower, not because they have hearing concerns or anything like that, but they're trying to process in a different way than the speed that I talk. But when you get those drainers and those helpers together, it can be just a total chaotic thing because those helpers want to listen and the drainers know that I got Jackie in a corner. She's going to listen to me. She's going to listen. And then what happens is those helpers start to spin. And then we feel like, oh my gosh, we couldn't resolve this for them. Oh my gosh, I feel so sad. Why can't I help them? They're not wanting your help right then. And so we have this beautiful tool in mediation that is called a caucus. So if we get people that just keep talking, they keep saying the same thing, they're trying to interrupt the other person, or we can tell that they walked into this room with no intention to listen to the other party, we will do what's called a caucus, and we will take a break. And as a mediator, we would stop and talk to Damien for a few minutes. We talk to Tanya. And if there's no movement in the one-on-one context, when they're not having to look at that other person, whether it's on virtual screen or in an in-person session, if they're not willing to talk in a different way without that person that's emotionally charged at them or the person they're in conflict with, it's just not worth it. We will cut mediations off for that because it is about them working towards a resolution. It's not towards them beating that other person up and taking so much time to say the same thing over and over. Now, we try not to do that. And so we actually will do some pre-rules to that. But when you're stuck in a friend situation, one of your coworker calls you over and they're just going off just to complain, that's not a resolution they're seeking. They're just trying to dump on you because they want to get it out of their head. Don't let them put it onto you unless that's your actual role. If you're the supervisor, if you're HR and you have to hear those things, that's a different thing than if you're trying to do your job and go about your business type of a thing, because the drainers are going to find anybody. And if you can't give them your time, they're going to Damien next. And if Damien can't cut them off, he's just going to get all that suck and he's going to get behind in his work. So we do have to find that balance because the drainers don't necessarily realize they're draining you. They don't realize they're over explaining. They just feel so passionate. Their emotions are so tied to them being right or you being wrong that they're not in the frame of mind to really move forward.
Yeah.
So
Do we have time for another question? Go ahead.
Yeah, Kinga talks about, so I asked him, what new information do we have? That's a good one. So I do have a question. So how can we find a better balance in those situations? And before we answer that question, I want people who are in the audience to put in how do they find better balance. I know Kinga kind of set it off with the how she reframes and asks them a question. And before we answer that, I do want to take a break, a 2-minute break, and talk about the network really quick and the mag. Is that okay, Jackie, Dr. Farron?
Sure.
Right, cool. So this is the question, and I'll put it on the ticker so people can dump it into the chat and think about that, and then we'll come right back and continue. All right. So the 2350 network, it is definitely live. The website is there. We are working on creating a LinkedIn page, so don't worry. It will be out there. This is definitely the perfect time. The 2350 network, the effect is part of the network. The effect is the live show. The network is a networking environment where we have professionals, myself, Dr. Farron, Jackie, Kinga, who's in the audience, Leslie Flowers, who's in the audience, Brenda Lees, and a host of all other people on 2350 members. Here's the website. You can go to 2350.com, which is right here, and you can go to the site. We have the mission, the values, the ways to get part. We're founding members on the 2350 network, and some of the things we do so many professional developments, lunch and learns. We have at least 4 to 5 professional developments a month. Dr. Farron is going to show you the calendar, and on the calendar we have this virtual wellness, the Work-Life Balance Summit, the 4th and 5th that we did. We had about 13 members who were a part of that summit out of the 27 people who were part of that particular summit. So that's like close to half. We had a members meeting. We had a lunch and learn, which was amazing, which was hosted by a member, Erica Kessie, who she talked about a great topic that people can relate to. You have to be a member, and you will know exactly what the topic is. We had a lunch and learn yesterday. Not a lunch and learn. We had a leadership and lemonade, which was amazing yesterday. Conversation around leadership and discussion and topic. We had a lot of members there input. And on Tuesday, we're having a social happy hour, which is, I'm excited about that. It's a themed, it's a secret theme, and we have that as well. So go check that out and to become a member. And then also we have our member spotlight page where we put our members out there in some of the services, the features. Here's the Helpful Living magazine. That magazine is the collaboration of the summit, which took place, and it had so many members and individuals in it. Here's my copy of my physical magazine with the people in the summit. Inside the magazine and a physical copy. I have a digital copy as well. I actually have 2 physical copies here. And it has so many things in here. It has, articles, so much stuff going on inside here in the Summit magazine.
I think he reads that magazine before he goes to bed every night. What do you think? I think he does.
Hey,
it's worth it because it's such a good magazine.
It's Jackie's article, and it'll be great. It's definitely great because you get to see what's going on with Jackie. Some of the people inspired her. Same thing with Dr. Farron, conversations around inspiring, providing action steps for people and readers with their particular workshops. Dr. Farron was talking about journaling in her workshop. Jackie talked about unbalancing. What do you do when your family out unbalances you, which is a great topic. I talked about the 2350 effect. There's so many people in here. And then even we have the experience, which is in here, which is our next conference, which is in March. So go out and then scroll a little bit down because I definitely want to get this since Leslie Flowers is here. Leslie Flowers is our Spotlight member of the month. And you see that area where you can click. You click it, you'll go right to her page with her book, her 10th book, which is a 2-part book, I believe, 2 or 3-part book. It's her first science fiction book, and you can click it and go out and get it. And then look, it jumps right into the Amazon page. So we want to spotlight the members, and that's what the 2350 Network is about. Spotlighting the members, talking about them, and building that level of support, teamwork, and collaboration.
I want to kind of follow up, Damien, because as a member, I think it's different for people to hear from a member versus you guys running the 2350 network. So I have been in other business communities and I have not felt the support that I feel with you guys. You guys are amazing. You are doing this to elevate us. You're not doing it just to promote you two. And I cannot thank you enough for that. It is amazing when you're surrounded by like-minded individuals that really want people to be educated. They want to be able to highlight their stuff. I popped into the Leadership and Lemonade yesterday, and the first thing I heard was everybody was like, you guys just launched the Emotional Women. How can we hype you? Tell us all about it. And I'm like, I'm not here to pitch. No, you are pitching right now. Do it. We want to hear all about it. That doesn't happen in just any community group. So really be mindful of who you're spending your time with, who you're talking about some of your business planning with, and surround yourself with people that really want you to win. And that's why I can't thank you guys enough. So I had to just shout you guys out because it's different when you're in a community that really wants you to be elevated. So I can't speak highly enough about the 2350 network. I guarantee this kind of a network will help you with conflict resolution skills. It helps you with your communication. It gets you inside information on different topics that you just wouldn't have without paying a ton of money for going to a different presentation or workshop. So I've already learned so much by the members that we have. And as it keeps growing, we're just going to be hearing so much more. So I want to thank both of you guys too for doing this for us.
You're welcome and thank you. And I appreciate you saying that because you are 100% right. It sounds different when it's coming from somebody who's actually utilizing and a part of the network because it doesn't. It sounds more genuine. It doesn't, regardless of how genuine myself and Dr. Farron is about this conversation and about the network. It still might come off as not being genuine or sales or pitching, but that's not the case. So when you said, this is not the time to pitch, it's always the time to pitch. The whole thing is about letting us know and letting everybody know what you're doing and what's going on. Like Mauricia has a book. She's looking for women to talk about their experience of being in the workforce and having trouble in the workforce and discrimination. Brenda Leese is doing breath work. She's also doing something um, around divorce with a different group. These things are important. Leslie Flowers' book. Kinga does project management. She's looking for people to do projects with. She has a system in place. There's so many Christie 5-star ratings. She's great about advocating and putting people out there. Jamie, this is her magazine in collaboration with Creative Living Ideas. There's so much stuff going on. So we want people to be out there. And this is the campus, open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A pool table is the office, and that's Erica who did the Lunch and Learn. And that is the 2350 Network. Thank you so much, everyone. And I am going to go back to regularly scheduled programming. Did I miss anything?
Nope, you got it all.
All right. So thank you, everybody. I love the 2350 Network as well. And I also love this question that we have. Oh, is it coming up? Oh, it's on the ticket. Sorry. All right. So how can we find that balance when you have individuals? Because you talked about drainers, Dr. Farron, right? So when you have somebody who's asking you a question just to drain you, how do you find that balance?
Well, me personally, I think there's like Jackie said, she hit the nail on the head. Every person responds and reacts differently to conflict. And so every person has to be handled a little bit differently when you're resolving conflict. So I think that's something that you have to know to be able to find that balance. I think setting up boundaries is very important. I mean, I don't do professional mediation, but I have had to do mediation between parents and students, which is professionally done, but not professionally certified in mediation as Jackie is. But finding that time and space between people, I think is important to do that and find that balance. And I'm also teaching people. Again, I'm an educator. I'm always going to be an educator. And so I spend a lot of time talking to parents about how to resolve conflict with their kids and how to resolve conflict with their kids amongst their peers. And so taking time to educate people, I think, is really important to find that balance and be able to teach them how to manage it themselves so that they're not having to come to you. They're able to resolve conflict on their own. And it's a huge skill. I'm going to go back to some basic things in life that people don't do anymore. And I always say the dinner table, but I don't mean the Cleaver's dinner table. I'm talking, you may be at McDonald's with your family. You may be at in the family room together eating dinner on the carpet or on a picnic. Having meals together is so huge, and talking to one another. That is where young children start to observe conflict resolution and how it is done in your family. I'm not saying that's the perfect way, but that's where it starts, right? It starts by listening to mom and dad have a conversation. If we put a kid on a device and they're not paying attention to anything we're doing, or we send them to the other room and we're having a conversation, they don't get to see the beginning of the conflict, the middle of the conflict, and the resolution of the conflict. They're missing that whole process. So they don't know how to do it. So then they come to their parents when they have conflict, and then the parents get into the mix of it, and then it gets ugly, and it's just not great. So I think educating people on how to do it, this space is an important way of helping people find balance and how to do that. Jackie, what are your thoughts? Jamie, and what are your thoughts?
So I know you said you're educated in public school, so I did immediately raise my hand because you said something earlier in the conversation that's so important. And I do want you to kind of touch on it before you get to Jackie. Holding that space in the space, because I picked up like space is not necessarily just for holding a space for the person to vent off emotion and have a conversation. It's also that space for yourself to be able to say, I need a break. Is that part of it?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Absolutely. Mhm.
So, one of the things that really jumps out when you were talking about that, Tanya, is, you know, if we grow up in a household where there's yelling and screaming and possibly other forms of violence, and it's not, let's sit down and eat together, or hey, let's put the tablet up so we can talk. That's how they're going to come to school. That's going to be how they come to the workforce. And you're not going to have somebody that wants to sit and just talk about what just happened or check in on each other. You're going to have somebody that is not as mindful. And that's the thing that is such a parental concern, is that some parents don't understand the concept of communicating with their kiddos. And so it's not just that they're not talking to their kid, they're establishing patterns of communication styles for that child that is going to go into the school, it's going to go into the workforce, and then it's going to go into the relationships. And so that's one of the things when people are like, well, why are so many people getting divorced? It didn't used to be. Well, there's so many people getting divorced because their parents got divorced and their parents got divorced. And I'm not, pro or against that. And when we do divorce mediations, we're not trying to get them back together or trying to keep them apart. It's really their decision. However, if they're communicating in a way not to resolve something, divorce might be the safest thing for them, because if they're not willing to talk, if they haven't tried mediation, they haven't tried counseling, it's going to not only affect them, it's going to affect their kiddos. And that's one of the most beautiful things that we've seen, is we'll get people that will call us and they're like, I know he's not going to want to mediate. She will never talk to us because she's so mad at me for divorcing or whatever. They come to mediation and they start wanting to just yell at each other. We ask them to pull out a picture of their child or their children, and it changes the whole dynamic. And because it takes away that emotional, I'm mad because you hurt me, you cheated on me, you didn't want to be with me anymore, you wouldn't talk to me, whatever that issue was. And guys, we can translate that into the workforce. The people that are willing to just keep doing that nonstop talking, proving them right, they've probably never had somebody sit down with them and talk about, hey, when you're angry at somebody or you think somebody did wrong, these are some of the words you can use to get them to want to talk to you and resolve it. They probably just scream, steal, fight, whatever they need to do as kids to make it show what happens. And that absolutely comes into adulthood. So you get to see them, Dr. Tanya, in the school. You can tell probably by just looking at a classroom, probably on the first or second day, which parents have shown different communication styles with their kiddos versus which ones either scream and yell most of the time, or they just have them on tablets or cell phones and things like that. It makes such a difference.
It really, really does. And in my book, Raising the Well-Adjusted Child, a Parent's Manual, I talk a lot about how to connect with your kids and how to have conversations with them. And so, because like you said, we were raised a certain way, and that we bring that to our relationships. And if we don't go outside to learn new ways to talk to people or learn new ways to resolve conflict, I'm very different than I was 33 years ago being first married. My husband and I do not have the relationship we had then that we have now. We've worked at it, and that's what I encourage a lot of people. And so if you're out there listening, it is, any type of relationship that you're having, whether it's a partner relationship or it's your children or professional relationship, you have to continue to learn to grow and have communication skills and continue to improve on those skills. So this has just been incredible, even tonight, Jackie, having you here with us, because, you really, there are so many things that you've already said tonight that I'm going to take back and use already from, our, to my day job and to my family, like those are great things that you've already shared with us. I do want to go to that next. Did you want to respond, Damien, at all before we go to that next question?
No, I agree with you 100% with the whole. There's a lot of takeaways from this conversation that can actually be implemented, and I appreciate both of you for having this conversation. And also, congratulations on 33 years.
Thanks. Yeah, I kind of like him. He's a
You're
good
welcome.
guy. When we wanted to talk about, real life examples. And when we created these questions or these, talking points for us tonight, one of the things that came to mind is, again, I'll go back to the beginning of my career in education. My beginning of career as an administrator, my communication skills were different than they are now with parents, and I've learned a lot. And with staff, my communication skills with staff were different. And I remember a personal experience of being floored, and I mean floored, by a staff member at 6 p.m. in my doorway who was livid. And there was nothing I was going to say or do to stop this person from talking to me the way they were. And I was dumbfounded. I remember not being prepared for this. No one in school prepared me for this conversation I was going to have with an employee. Nobody was. I walked away stunned. There was nothing I could say. I was trying to provide. This person was upset over the behavior of the kindergarten students in their classroom. And I'm a solution-oriented person. It may be a curse. It may be a gift. You could take it either way. And no matter what I said, it was never going to work. And it was the worst thing in the world. The worst thing was that her student went to my school and sat in the chair outside my office and listened to her yell and yell and yell and yell. And I had no idea even what to do. I remember just being shocked and nervous and unsure and didn't know what to do next. It was awful. And so I don't think I remedied it. I'm going to be 100% transparent. It didn't get fixed at the moment. It got fixed in a few years, but it did not get fixed in the moment. And I don't think that I fixed this person. And I don't like the word fixed. I don't know what other words.
I was just going to give you permission. You don't have to fix somebody.
Thank you.
She gave you her conflict in a way that was not going to be resolved. And again, when you're in that helper mindset, which I will always be a helper, but I've definitely learned those boundaries, and I've learned a lot of different ways to transition and de-escalate, which I don't know how much training in a school system. I don't know how much training in a traditional corporate setting de-escalation happens. In social work, especially when you're working with people that have made some not so great decisions in life, we talk about de-escalation a lot. There are different trigger words that can heighten people up to have them go off to a point where you could need to be fearful of your own safety, even as a supervisor of somebody you used to get along with, and you always had them talk to you in a good way, because we don't know where they are in their not only mental health, but their actual just situation that day, because they might have been a different person in the morning than in the afternoon. We don't know what all played into that. And when people bring you their conflict without wanting to resolve it, not only are they that drainer, they are somebody that could escalate. And that's something. So I really want to make sure anybody that's listening or watching on replay, you realize where your role is, because please don't watch this situation and say, I want to be a mediator now. I took Damien's poll. I'm going to be a mediator, and I'm going to stand between two people that are ready to throw down at each other. It takes a certain skill in person to know when to sit back and listen, and maybe that will de-escalate them and you don't say a word. Or if you don't start talking immediately, that's going to escalate them. So there's a lot of different situations that Dr. Tanya, I still get stumped by some people's behavior. And I've been doing this for a gazillion years because the dynamics of human evolution are changing. We have a lot more mental health illnesses and mental health responses that are either not being taken care of or that people don't even understand. But there's so much of that emotion tied to it because, we're kind of like that, oh, let's be mindful and let's work on our emotions, but we don't always elevate that in a positive way. So people start swirling. And when they swirl, you don't know what could come out of them. You don't know if they're going to become aggressive, if it's just assertiveness, or if they're going to be able to be kind of de-escalated by you. And so if you don't have those skills, please make sure you're safe. Please get backup. Please make sure that you're in an environment where people can see you so you're not trapped in a room or anything like that too. But you did not fail that person. That person did multiple things that put you in a spot that you've probably been thinking about this for years, and they probably forgot about it the next day, right?
Well, I forgot about it, but it did pop back into my mind with this conversation. And, you brought a really great point in. So I'm in the state of Missouri. In the schools that I was in, we did start to assume and train with trauma informed practices. And that did make a huge difference. I mean, that really helped me as a leader to understand that. And I think after 5 or 6 years, I would have better related and been able to handle the conversation differently. That they also are requiring, and some of our universities in the area, they're requiring that trauma informed practices, at least trauma one. And that's very important for people in the workplace because we're talking about people everywhere. But yeah, so that was a personal story that to me, I see growth in myself and learning how to, manage a situation. But there's a lot of us that are listening or that are out there that are new in a career, a profession, a relationship, and learning how to navigate that can be challenging. Do either one of you want to share?
Oh, well, I'd like to share the happy birthday. I know that's tomorrow.
Happy
So,
birthday, Jackie.
But it's Sharito's today. She was
yeah,
actually my
today.
very first message in LinkedIn message saying happy birthday. So thank you, Sharito. Gotta
Yeah, I
love
was
my
about to say the
businesses.
same thing. It's actually her Monday, so it's if you were where she's at, it's your birthday. So I love that she put that out there. Um, for me, I would have to bring this happens for some reason. It happens a lot for me, not a lot often. Um, Middle person mediator or conflict resolution person. You have two individuals, and you in it, and I end up being the explainer because it comes out of left field, and it'll be. I'll give you one specific situation, and I'm not going to say names or give any details of it. One individual kind of felt disrespected for whatever reason. And then there was another individual who had no clue what was going on, had no clue. So when I'm having a conversation with the person who felt disrespected, I'm trying to explain to them because I was there that the series of events may have happened that way for you, but it didn't happen for the other person that way. So I validated their feelings of you have the right to feel the way you feel, but you don't really have the right to kind of be disrespecting people. And then it turned to the point where they started um, going back and forth with me and trying to get me to feel that not having a conversation with the other individual was appropriate. And then it turned towards them starting to get mad at me. And then I had to say, hey, I understand. I use empathy. I understand that you're frustrated and you're going through what you're going through. And you do have a right. Everyone has a right to have their feelings. And I respect that. But I didn't disrespect you at all. So you don't really have, I don't appreciate that I'm the target of your inappropriate responses because I've never disrespected you and I've only treated you with respect and kindness. So the person understood that in that situation. And long story short, was able to finally come to terms with, you know what, it's a possibility it didn't go the way they thought it was and try to resolve the situation. But it took a very long time. And had I not been patient or someone else, it could have actually went left because I'm just trying to say, hey, just talk to people, be kind, be people. Life is too short for us to be so angry or upset about things that clearly somebody does not even know about, and just conversation with people is so important. So when you're having these conversations, the moral of the story is be able to, if you don't live in the empathy pocket and in the patience, be aware that, like Dr. Farron said, you might have to take space for yourself and be understanding of that. That space for yourself is appropriate. And Nadine, thanks for showing and coming. I did talk about the poll, and I talked about, most people do go in that pocket of you do all things, and and there's sometimes people don't want to admit that they get in back and forth with people, and it happens, and they find themselves over explaining and waking up like, that just happened. Like, this person just asked me about cookies And then all of a sudden start talking about the car, the carburetor, the television. It was like, wow, did this, and you feel like you over explaining yourself about conversation of cookies. I'm just using stuff as context because I don't want to talk about people. And you have those things, and over explaining happens a lot. The mediation happens, and then you go in. It's kind of like the stages of grief in the conversation. You're going from, the listener to the over explainer to the mediator to the conflict resolution, the fire person, and then you're going back in the whole wheel of it, and it happens, and you have to be able to say, what would Brenda Lee's doing? Just breathe. So
Exactly.
that's a lot.
Well, I love that you brought empathy into it too, because that's like, there's a lot of skill pockets that we're looking at here, right? That in order to be able to resolve conflict, that we have to be able to understand, know how to do, be open to it. It is hard sometimes, people do have a right to feel the way they feel. We can't tell someone you can't feel that way. We can't tell them that. That's how they are feeling. We may not agree with it, but that's how they're feeling. So you have to say, okay, you feel that way. I feel this way. Now, how do we get to the middle? Like, how do we, come to some sort of an agreement of some kind?
Yeah. You cannot take no one's feelings from them. You can't.
No, I love it. And so many great people in the audience. Divine, thank you for sharing. Mindfulness practices increase your awareness, and empathy is always present. And I didn't get to wish Charito happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Thank you, Nadine, for being here, and for Pamela for giving her advice. I'm sure you've seen quite a bit being in the ER. There's quite a bit of situations I'm sure you've seen with people. If you've ever worked in the medical field, I had worked in the medical field when I was going back to school. When I was going to college to be a teacher. And it is interesting. When people are in pain, they are completely different people than they are when they are not in pain. And so that medical field really deals with some trauma and some real deep emotions with people when they are in pain. I mean, they are like night and day. And so it is incredible. So thank you for what you do for that. Amazing. So thank you, Pamela, for being here also. Lisa, Tim, Joe, thanks for being here. I think we had one more person we missed up here. Maybe not. I might have got him. Thank you, guys. If we missed your name or didn't see your name in the comments, that happens sometimes on LinkedIn. We'll chat with you in the comment section tonight. Lots of people from across the pond.
Frederick and Edward.
Frederick and Edward, thank you all for being here too.
Edward's a Michigan guy.
Edward's a Michigan guy. Frederick's from Great Britain. Nice.
All right. Yeah, Joe's here. Oh, I didn't see Jean. Oh, okay, cool. All right, Dr. Marcia, we had a lot of people show up for this conversation.
We did.
How do we want to close this out? Do we want a tip before the
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. You can go first.
Who, me?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you give the first tip.
My greatest tip that I would tell you, and we kind of talked about this a little bit, I'll give you 2 tips. Lead with empathy and patience. That's together. That's not one separate thing. Empathy and patience. And the other thing is say okay diffuses a lot of things. Like, I hear you.
Yeah.
Does not mean I agree. If I say I hear you, does not necessarily mean I agree. That means I hear and understand what your perspective is and respect your perspective. Just does not mean I agree with it.
I think active listening is huge. Whenever you are in the middle of having a difficult conversation with someone, that active listening of being able to repeat that, what they've actually said to you, and making sure that it is correct. A lot of times you can say something like, I think you said this to me, and it is not what they said to you. and you have to repeat it again. And so that active listening is really important to make sure that you are really absorbing what they're saying. Same as Damien said, that does not mean you agree with it. That just means I am confirming I have heard what you have said. And that is huge. People a lot of times want to be heard and understood. And so that's important as well. That would be my tip.
I love that you just said that, understood. So at our center, when they call for mediation, my case managers are sometimes on the phone for 45 minutes with people just talking about if mediation is right for them. And I cannot tell you how many times they hear, "You're the first person that listened to me. You didn't cut me off when I was talking about this." So absolutely, that understanding and what Damien shared too, everything you guys said is spot on. The tips I'm going to share: be intentional. Okay. If you really don't like somebody and you don't want to make nice with them, don't waste your or their time. Just walk away, guys. If you really care about nurturing a relationship with somebody and you want that person to stay in your world, you want to work alongside them, you want to keep in a relationship with them, be intentional about the way that you learn communication skills. And if you know you don't have them, seek help, find somebody, like I said, use a licensed person, go to counseling, go to different self-help things, Google some things on how to talk nicely to people. I mean, the information is out there without paying money. And then be a kind human. It doesn't cost money to care about other humans. And when we care about others and we're not always worried about being right, the world just starts opening up for us. And now this last tip I'm going to say, it might be very offensive to some people, so I'm going to apologize a little bit, but not a whole bunch. If you are constantly in disagreement with other humans, you are constantly circling and so mad at other people, it might be you that you need to start looking at. Because maybe not everybody else in the world is wrong. Maybe it's the way that you intone stuff. Maybe it's the way you express yourself. Maybe it's your lack of positive communication styles when you were a kiddo. It's not your fault that you don't know the skills. But if you're not willing to learn something new and try to move forward in a positive direction, you might need to just step back your own self, because you may be the one that's escalating other people. And how unfair is that to keep putting that negative energy into people that really want to move forward and they want to share that kindness and that caring communication. So sorry if that's offensive, but it's real. And we all got to do that. What do you call it, Damien? Self reflection, but you actually call it about like that strategic planning with yourself. It's important, guys. Each and every one of us need to do it. And we need to do it for different relationships too. Thank you for letting me share that.
No worries. Thank you for sharing that as well. Divine loves that as well. I appreciate sharing that. And I think next week we're talking about words matter. I'm not sure, but I'll check. And we'll check and have a conversation, figure it out, and get it done. But we always want to leave with apologize. We close with a quote. See, that's my laugh quote text for the week too. I'm messing up there, but close with a quote. What is your closing quote? Thank you, everybody, for coming to as well.
I would say my closing quote is, I'm just sticking to it right now, is be the change you wish to see in this world. Because conflict resolution starts with you, and so your strategies and your skills, if you want to improve that, or, if you want to spend less time arguing and more time resolving issues together with whomever you're discussing this with, look at yourself, look inward, and be the change yourself that you want to see in the world.
I love that one. And I love that Devon can laugh at me, because I can laugh at myself as well. It's not that serious. So I appreciate you. I'm glad you got humor out of that too. Be the change of yourself. And part of that change is, you got to take yourself serious. Sometimes you have to take yourself not so serious. So I love that you said that. Jackie, what's yours?
So I usually love to do a Martin Luther King Jr. quote, but I kind of forgot that I was supposed to have a quote. So I do have a quote up on my bedroom wall. So I'm going to read that, but it's way far away. So I'm like wearing my glasses and hard to see. Cannot tell you who said this, but I'm sure a bunch of people have said it in different things. But I think it fits well with this for a couple different reasons. So it is, life is not measured by the breaths you take. It's measured by the moments that take your breath away. Guys, we don't know how long we have on this earth. Why sit and fester in all that ick and be around people draining you and wanting to cause conflict with you? get those exciting times, get around the people that just make you laugh and be happy. And I promise you, then once you do that, more of those people being happy and excited for you will just gravitate towards you. And those drainers will start being fewer and fewer away for you. So I hope you all have wonderful times when your breath is just taken away in a good way. And then we'll breathe in meditation and make sure that we're doing okay with that too. So thank you for this topic. I am doing my mediation room on Thursday morning, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. That is, it's not specifically for mediation or Michigan, but there are some different mediation directors that day. So if you guys like this conversation, it's not a topic that I like to talk about every month because it gets kind of overwhelming for people. But I love the way you guys brought this to the people because it's done in a different way than I would do if it was just a work thing, because conflict happens with everybody. It's not one kind of family. It's not one kind of workforce. So thank you guys so much for letting me join the conversation tonight and really bringing this out because it needs to be talked about for sure.
I love that. And before I give my quote, I forgot. I know as Dr. Farron always says, drop your quote, your favorite quote in the comments because we want to hear it. If you watch this on replay, drop your favorite quote in the comments. We love to hear people's quotes. You never know who needs that quote that inspires somebody else and gets their day going. You know, it's Monday somewhere for somebody, as like Sharito said. So my quote, as always, is the 2350 network, the 2350 effect is this. Don't let 5 or 10 minutes of a bad day disrupt the other 23 hours and 50 minutes of your day. Live life to your fullest, your ability, your optimum level, and, keep those relationships going. Thank you so much for coming and joining. Thank you, Jackie, for having this conversation and doing the double header. Congratulations on your new company, being a co-founder. Happy birthday. Thank you, Dr. Farron, as always, like hosting and creating this space with me and being my partner in this conversation. It's really great to have both of y'all here because I partner with you on Sunday. I'm a partner with you on Wednesday. And that collaboration, and thank you for all of the people in the audience, Brenda Lee, the 2350 members as well, Christy, Kinga, Lex, Leslie, so many other people. Fawn for coming to, Pamela. I know Dr. Farron's gonna say other people's names, so I'll turn it over to her. Devon.
I'm not going to say. We've read them all. Everyone, thanks for being here tonight. Thank you, Jackie. Have a great birthday tomorrow. Let us know how you celebrated you, because that's important. Everyone, have a great night. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you for attending the 2350 Effect. If you are interested in becoming a guest or a sponsor, please contact Damien or Dr. Tanya. Join us every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the 2350 Effect.